Good day, ladies and gentlemen. Today we will continue our training and we will talk about the classification of three types of dangerous goods: Class 3, Class 6 and Class 8. And all the credits go to the IATA DG manual. I use the tables and the contents from it. And also some pictures I used from Google. For the following two slides I will skip it because we know each other already. So we are not going to talk about it again. And we will jump directly to the objectives of this training. By the end of this training, with the proper manual, the DG edition 63 DGR, and also the information provided by the shipper, you will be able to recognize if a shipment is a dangerous goods shipment. And if it is, you will know you will be able to classify it properly. Well, we know there are 9 classes of the DGs, and today we are going to talk about Class 3, Class 6, Class 8 only. And before we jump into the classifications, we will talk about the packing group. Because all Class 3, Division 6.1 and Class 8, they have packing groups. So what are the packing groups? We have 3 packing groups. The lower the number of the packing group 1 is the most dangerous. And larger the number, packing group 3, they have the lower dangerous. The packing group will be used according to the packing material, how we pack and transport the shipment. Do we need to have very good material in a very restricted method to pack the shipment? Or we can pack it with a less complicated material because the dangerous level is less. So it's all decided by the packing group. And to classify a DG shipment, it's very useful to apply the packing group as well. That's why in the following section, we'll continue to talk about the packing groups as well. Well, let's come to the first class we will talk about today, the Class 3. So, if I give you this liquid, and I ask a question, can you tell me if this is a flammable liquid? Sorry, I'm not able to with the substance on my hand, because we need to know more information about it. That's what I mentioned, that we need to have the information from the shipper. Well, for the Class 3 definition, is the flammable liquids and the sensitized explosives. So what does it mean? We have 2 very important concepts here. First of all, the flash point. Flash point is the lowest temperature that a liquid let out some vapor, and the vapor is concentrated enough to be ignited. That means if we have some lighting to the vapor, it will be explosive. So that's the temperature, we call it flash point. And the second one, we call it initial boiling point. That's the initial temperature. At that moment, the liquid starts to boil. Like water, we know that the initial boiling point in room temperature is 100 degrees. So with these two numbers, we can properly classify if a shipment belongs to flammable liquids. And for the definition of these 2 definitions, you can find from Appendix A, the glossary. So let's come to the definition and the packing group information. You can find this table from table 3.3.8, Class 3, packing group assignment. Let's go over it together. For packing group 1, that is the most dangerous substance, leads to utmost care. There's no flash point, because so low the flash point, and the initial boiling point is less than 35 Celsius degrees. In other words, in a very low temperature, we can ignite the liquid, and the temperature will become gas. The substance will turn from liquid to gas. And packing group 2, the flash point is less than 23 degrees, and the initial boiling point is higher than 35 degrees. And the difference between packing group 2 and packing group 3 is the flash point. If the flash point is lower than 23 degrees, it's packing group 2, and it's higher than 23 but lower than 60 degrees, it's packing group 3. So if we have these two numbers and we match the chart, we will know that if this shipment is a class 3 flammable liquids or not, and if it is, what packing group we should apply to. With these two flash point and initial boiling point, we can know if it's class 3 and we can know the packing group. Now let's see an example. Let's say the same liquid we have just now. The flash point is 21 C degrees and the initial boiling point is 48 C degrees. Is it DG according to the IATA regulations? If yes, which packing group we should apply? Let's refer to the chart. So we have the 21 C degree for the flash point, which is lower than 23 Celsius degrees. So it could be packing group 2 or packing group 1. We don't have enough information here. So let's look at the initial boiling point. It's 48 degrees. 48 degrees is higher than 35, not lower. That's why packing group 2 should be applied. And in other words, this is flammable liquid. It's flammable liquid and we apply packing group 2. Another example. Let's say we have something, the flash point is 70 degrees and the initial boiling point is 80 degrees. Can we have these two numbers from the chart? No, we can't, because 70 is higher than 60 and 80 is higher than 35 as well. So with these two information, we know that this is not a flammable liquid. Well, this was the answer to the question we had. So it's very straightforward to let us know that if some liquid substance is a flammable liquid or not. Now let's move on to class 6, toxic and infectious substance. Class 6, there are two divisions. Division 6.1, toxic substance. Division 6.2, infectious substance. We have the 6.1 and 6.2 definition here. Well, we all know that it's very precise, but it's very wordy. So I would say, why not? Let's use common sense, and with the common sense, we can always refer to the book to have more information. For example, I have another substance on hand, or something like the powder we have from the picture. And can you tell me if this is a toxic substance? We can't, because we don't have the information required. We need to get some criteria to determine a substance is dangerous goods or not, and if it is, if it falls into class 6, the toxic substance. Here we have another two concepts, the LD50 and the LC50. The LD50, in my own language, it will be the amount that we take into the either through the mouth or contact with the skin, and if through the mouth we observe for 14 days, there's 50% of the chance if the animal take that amount will be dead. That's the LD50 amount. And same, if the substance contact with the skin for 24 hours and then we observe for another 14 days, if there's 50% of the chance the animal is dead, that will be the LD50 amount for demo. So if the LD50 and LC50 amounts the less, the dangerous level is the higher. Why? Because the less amount will cause the animal death, so it's more dangerous. So here we have the definition to let us know which pecking group this substance will be, and also will also let us know that if this substance is belong to the toxic substance. Let's have a look at the table 3.6a. Here we have the oral toxicity, LD50, the dermal toxicity, LD50, and also the inhalation toxicity by the dust and the mist. So let's have an example. If I have substance, the oral toxicity, LD50, is only 3 milligram per kilo. Is this the division 6.1 toxic materials? Of course it is. It's very dangerous. According to the chart, it belongs to pecking group 1 because the amount of LD50 is so small. It's very dangerous to a human being, to the animal. In another example, if this material, this substance, the LD50 is 50 gram, a lot. And 50 gram is more than 300 milligram per kilo. It's 50 gram per kilo. 50 gram per kilo is higher than 300 milligram per kilo. So this substance should not be classified as the 6.1 toxic materials. Same, we have the vapor inhalation hazard, the 6.1. If it's a gas that if we take into the lung and the LC50 is less than some density, it will be according to different pecking group. Say if the LC50 is less than 3,000 milliliter per cubic meter, and also complying with this criteria, it will be classified as pecking group 2. So with these two charts here, we can classify a substance if this is 6.1 or not. And if this is 6.1, we can know that what pecking group will be applied. Now let's move to 6.2, the infectious substance. Again, the DG book gives us a lot of information in very great details and very comprehensive. But to better understand the concept, we just need to summarize it. For this division 6.2, we have two categories. Category A, we have, according to the table 3.6d, we have 2 UN numbers. And if you check the table 3.6.d, you will see a lot of names, and all these names finally will fall into 2 UN numbers. And category B, we only have UN 3373, 1 UN number. And the definition is an infectious substance does not meet the criteria in category B. Category A is category B. So we can understand that it's everything else but not category A. It falls into category B. And the third type is the medical waste. There are also 2 UN numbers assigned to the medical waste, UN 3291 and UN 3549. However, as usual, we all know that in the DG book, there's a lot of exceptions and notes. So if you have some information of some infectious substance, always get the information and check the book. Always go through all the exceptions and notes so that we will not miss anything. And again, like we just mentioned before in other lectures, we don't want everybody to remember the book. It's a 1,000-page book. even you can have a very good memory, you can remember part of the book. It keeps changing every year, and within the year, we have updates, we have the addendums, it will be changing. So the skill we need is to remember how to find the correct information from the proper section of the book. That saves us a lot of time and will lead us to the right answer. Okay, now let's go to the class 8 correctives. The corrective, there's a definition from 3.11 to 3.13. I summarize it into 3 parts of the keywords. It's the chemical reaction bring to this corrective effect. It's not a physical reaction, it's a chemical one. It's a irreversible damage. And this irreversible damage applies to skin or metal or other goods during the transportation. So we know that there are some effects to identify the class A corrosive materials. Now we only need to quantify it. With the numbers, we know exactly if this is a class 8 and if it is, what packing group it applies to. Let's have a look. If we check table 3.8.8, we will see the packing group assignment. Again, it tells us the packing group. It also tells us if the substance is a fall into the class A corrosive. Let's say packing group 1. Packing group 1 means it's most dangerous. That's why common sense will bring to us is with a very short contact time, with a short observation time, we see the effect of the corrosive. And of course, the exposure time is only less than 3 minutes. It can be 1 minute, 2 minutes, but less than 3 minutes. And when we observe, the effect lasts for less than or equal to 60 minutes. There will be irreversible damage of the intact skin. So that means this substance is very much corrosive, it's very much dangerous. And packing group 2, the exposure time is much longer. It's from 3 minutes to 60 minutes. And the observation time is up to 14 days. It's much longer than 1 hour. And we will have the same effect. So it's the same effect, but take much longer time. That means, of course, it's less dangerous. And for packing group 3, the exposure time is up to 4 hours. And with the same observation time, up to 14 days, with the same effect. So now we know that if we have the exposure time, we have the observation time, and if we have the effect, we can classify it to class 8, and if it is the corrosive material, we know that which packing group we should apply. Let's have a look at the example here. A substance has the irreversible damage of the intact skin with exposure time of 25 minutes. Number 1, we have the exposure time 25 minutes and the observation time of 9 days. Number 2, we have 9 days. So we have all the criteria to make the decision. Check the chart. The exposure time is 25 minutes. It's more than 3 minutes but less than 60 minutes. And the observation time is 9 days, which is not more than 14 days. It falls into packing group 2. So it's very straightforward, and by these 3 criteria we can have a decision that, oh, this substance is corrosive and how dangerous it is. We need to have packing group 2 to this substance. Or if we have something that with the exposure time over 5 hours and the observation time is very long and there's no effect on the metal, say it's over 6.25 millimeter a year at this temperature, shall we still classify it into number 8? No, there's no corrosive dangerous. Well, let's come to the summary. Just now we talked about the class 3, class 6 and the class 8, these three classification of the substance. Again, in daily life we have the gasoline, is the class 3, of course, the flammable liquid, and we have some pills might be very toxic. COVID-19 is the infectious substance, and some acid here, maybe you cannot see it, but it's sulfonic acid, 98%, is the class A corrosive materials. Well, by now I believe if you have the proper information and the DigiBook together, you will have the ability to properly classify the substance, and if needed, you can tell us what packing group is needed. Now the floor is open for questions and answers. Thank you for your participation.